Story 1. I am a broke artist. I used up 90% of my brain's creativity trying to come up with ways to pay rent. Story 2. Spraying champagne at a party looks sexy on television, but feels sticky in real life. Story 3. I am a night owl. I have severe insomnia, and the world is made for morning people. It just sucks. Story 4. Being a lone wolf sometimes just happens. It is not a lifestyle you choose. Story 5. A person who does not take no for an answer is not someone to pursue. Movies romanticize winning someone over, but if they were interested, they would reciprocate your advances. Saying no is not a cue to force yourself on them. Story 6. Having a chronic illness and not being able to work is not a choice. I wish I could just sit around and do nothing, but I never do. Otherwise, I would have checked out a long time ago. I am always productive to some degree and, in fact, do not have enough time in the day to get what I want done. Story 7. Sex on a plane is not that great. It's actually the opposite. It's terrible. Do not try to join the Mile High Club. It's a total scam. People who have done it before just want you to suffer as they did. Story 8. Having major depression is awful. Feels empty. I hate when people think it is cute or romantic. In reality, it is terrible and it is hard to feel alive. Story 9. Being an adult is hard. Kids do not know how good they have it until it is too late. I wish I had 3 months off work in the summer and 2 to 3 weeks of vacation for the winter holidays. Instead, I work myself to death because I have bills to pay and a mouth to feed, and nothing in this world is free. Story 10. Not having a job is difficult. People say, "Oh, but you have so much free time." But you can only fill that time with hobbies and pleasures for so long. Money provides comfort and stability, and reality catches up eventually. Unfortunately, that's how things are. Story 11. Being popular. I was always an introvert and kept to myself. Once in my early 20s, I had the chance to move to Europe for a completely new job with new people and a new environment, so I decided to present myself as a different, outgoing person. I was tall and athletic, so the physical part was easy. Within a few months, I was known as the life of the party. I was extremely popular, but it was hard work. I had to be pleasant all the time and constantly around people. I moved away after 2 years back to the United States, and I literally hibernated for months. Story 12. Having a corporate job is actually very stressful and not glamorous at all. Story 13. Who cares about New Year's Eve? Especially after a week of eating and drinking excessively over Christmas. Story 14. You don't want a stalker. You want a secret admirer. Story 15. War is not a noble thing in which honor is a sought-after concept. It is fucking insane, brutal, and dispassionate in its consumption of life. There is no honor in it. I will concede that bravery and sacrifice exist, because I have seen them. But honor is a military construct designed to get officers promoted. Story 16. Small-town living. It sucks to grow up in a place where you attend school with largely the same group of kids every year from kindergarten through high school. The nearest movie theater is a half-hour drive, and going to a concert requires planning a whole day to get there and back. 2 gas stations, 5 churches, and a shrinking school budget. Hallmark movies can go to hell. Story 17. Having to be strong all the time, not because you are brave, but because there is no other option. Story 18. Workplace romances. For every person who says they met their spouse at the office, there are about 10 who say it was the worst decision of their life. Unless you are absolutely certain they are the one, do not do it. Story 19. Living outdoors, including van life and living in a car, and being a nomad. Story 20. A 1985 Land Rover 110 with seating for 10 that works 50% of the time. Story 21. Living in constant snow. Right after it falls, it's pretty, but it gets dirty and ugly fast. Story 22. Here's a big one. The teenage years. Everyone acts like it's a time of great freedom, but in reality you have a full-time job at school that you don't get paid for, and often a second minimum wage job to afford a poor quality car. Meanwhile, you feel very awkward with yourself, let alone with your peers. Paying adult bills while enjoying real freedom with only one job is much better. Story 23. being powerful. Because, as quoted in Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. Postscript. Need a real-life example? Look at before and after pictures of most United States presidents, showing how they looked before taking office and after. Story 24. Mental or chronic illnesses are not enjoyable and never will be. Story 25. Working nonstop with no days off and calling it the grind. In real life, it is just exhaustion and burnout. Story 26. Picnics are never as good in real life as they appear on television or in film. Story 27. While I am sure many enjoy it, I am not a fan of eating or even having my butt eaten. I mean, there is feces on and around it. Story 28. I enjoy having someone to cuddle with while falling asleep occasionally, but I love having my bed and my space to myself. People's little idiosyncrasies undo me. I can't cope with someone being around me all the time. Story 29. Taking public transportation, especially for early morning work, can be difficult. I do not mean any disrespect to people who use public transit, but having to be at work at 7 a.m. and a bus ride that takes 45 to 60 minutes is never fun. I would have preferred to sleep longer. Story 30. Asperger's syndrome fucking sucks. Also, the grind is a great way to burn yourself out. Story 31. Military homecomings can bring a lot of joy. Do not get me wrong. I was always glad when he came home, but the adjustment can be very hard for everyone. It is both difficult and complicated. Story 32. Pregnancy is overly romanticized. Not that it is terrible, but life as a mother immediately after giving birth is even more romanticized. Story 33. Travel. Airports, hours on the tarmac, airplane germs, the drive to the airport, wanting to be home, missing your cat. Story 34. Summer, bugs, burning to death while doing yard work. Those days when it rains for 2 hours and you almost become religious. Then the sun from Mario 3 comes out and turns the outdoors into a gross, soggy, hot, humid mess. Summer is romanticized because of the free time we had as kids. Can go piss up a rope. Story 35. Dating a celebrity or someone in the film and television industries is challenging. Their schedules can be demanding, and their work-life balance is often poor. You really have to love that person more than yourself to make the relationship last. Story 36. Doing things the hard way to prove you are tough instead of the smart way to stay functional. Story 37. Having many siblings can be difficult. If you are the black sheep who faces most of the abuse, you have many people against you and it is extremely alienating. Story 38. I had always wanted to own a large amount of land, a few acres to build a house on. The house was fine, but the maintenance of the land, fences, gardening, and mowing meant nonstop work. I lasted 5 years. Story 39. Maybe more glamorized than romanticized, obsessive-compulsive disorder is one of the most debilitating disorders to live with. Story 40. Super long stretches of overtime. People act like they make you tough, but more often they just leave you bitter and lonely. Story 41. Traveling for work is sometimes fun, but often it is just quiet hotel rooms in the middle of nowhere. Story 42. Taking cute photos everywhere. I don't know, it just feels artificial to me. It feels like people keep directing every pose. No, pose like this. Shoulder out, wait, Katie blinked, we need another one for Instagram. I want to get out of the bathroom mirror selfie, get a drink, and experience life instead of living it behind a screen. Story 43. Weed is fun until you become so addicted that you cannot even spend a day sober, and you realize you have not been sober for more than an hour at a time in the last 3 months. One of my greatest sources of pride is being able to pull myself out of that. It ties into my second point, autism. I self-medicated with drugs. Autism is not fun or quirky. It is a constant struggle to fit in and a persistent feeling that, whatever you do, you will never be seen the same way and will always be treated differently. It is a real struggle. Story 44. I have both complex post-traumatic stress disorder and post-traumatic stress disorder. My friends say they are jealous because I get to stay home every day. No, Charon. I stay home because the outside world sends me into panic attacks and shutdowns. It is not cool or cute to have it. Someone brushes against a spider and people say, "That just gave me post-traumatic stress disorder." No, you just hate spiders. Also, the number of men who get excited when they learn I have it is crazy to me. I know it is wild and I hate it. Story 45. Living without a plan and just vibing sounds like freedom, but in real life it often means anxiety, financial stress, and exhaustion around the clock. Story 46. Sex with whipped cream and chocolate syrup. What a fucking mess. Story 47. When someone starts dating a wealthy person, they often assume everything will be easy. Because of movies and TV dramas, they may expect the family to accept them and for things to end happily ever after. In reality, the partner's family will scrutinize them. Some family members may accept them, but many will not. They may still see them as lower class and an outsider in their social circle. If you meet their social circle, you may feel ostracized and insignificant. You need to be thick-skinned because you will hear how elite, upper-class people speak. Much of the time their manner of speaking sounds like bragging, but it is normal to them. I know a man with little formal education who worked as a plumber and married a woman who graduated from a prestigious university and came from a wealthy family. Her family never accepted him, even after many years and after they had a child. They never invited him to family events and treated him coldly. He worked hard and started his own plumbing business, but they still would not accept him. Over time, his personality changed and he became withdrawn and bitter. I also know people who dated wealthy partners but were never accepted by the partner's family. Even when they try to get along, they cannot join them on extravagant vacations because they cannot afford the costs. Average people often behave differently from wealthier crowds, and that can create tensions. Wealthy families often expect their children to marry someone of equal or higher social standing. Not all relationships end badly. Some succeed, but those outcomes are rare, and you need a thick skin and a supportive, understanding partner to get through the difficulties. Story 48. Sorority and college culture to some degree. If I had known then what I know now, my life would be very different. Story 49. Not being able to work because of health reasons is difficult. I hope this is short term, but I do not want to just sit at home. It is not a day off. It is soul-sucking. Story 50. Not being able to work because of chronic pain and illness. I spent my first decade as an adult with my nose to the grindstone and loved it. Then my body and mental health began breaking down, forcing me to switch gears repeatedly for the past 3 years. Now I cannot work, and I have a list of specialists trying to figure out what is wrong. I am not 29 yet, and I have the body of a 70-year-old construction worker because of underlying conditions doctors dismissed for years. The comments I have received include, "I wish I could stay home and collect unemployment. Wow, I would love a summer break. I'm jealous." And, "How are you not on disability already? I am in constant pain," among other symptoms, and I wake up feeling like I was hit by a train every morning. Please be quiet and do your job. Story 51. Old stuff, old cars and old appliances. They do not make them like they used to. It is partly survivorship bias, partly rose-tinted nostalgia, and partly the novelty of rarity when only a few remain of something that was once common and unremarkable. Yes, old cars can look cool and are simpler, but in almost every other way they are inferior to even a cheap modern car. Story 52. Sex in the shower is horrible, and I'm tired of pretending it's not. Story 53. Survivalism and apocalyptic events. No, scavenging for resources and killing to survive is not fun. Story 54. Being a farmer is demanding. Most farmers I know work long hours every day of the year and are constantly on the brink of bankruptcy. Also, do not think working outside is all that great. The majority have back problems, about 70 to 80%. Could be very different, but capitalism keeps pushing the race toward the bottom, where supermarkets try to offer lower prices than their competitors and squeeze farmers for all they can. All production costs, diesel, seed, parts, irrigation, and so on, are increasing. Farmers in the United States have a suicide rate 3 times higher than average. Story 55. Being seriously ill for a long time is lonely and brings many challenges. Most of the time you are alone. People avoid you or think you are pretending, or they say you should live a normal life or that you do not try hard enough. In my 16 years of illness, only my mother and one friend told me they could see I was trying really hard. The rest was mockery. Story 56. Sex on a beach is horrible. Sand gets into places and can cause abrasions and infections. Story 57. Stalking. Toxic relationship dynamics. Youth as the golden period of life, especially the school and teenage years. Story 58. Romantic relationships are shaped by harmful social messages. We teach boys to reject anything feminine and to see being a woman as degrading, yet expect them to treat women as sexual objects. At the same time, we teach girls that their looks are their most important asset, that appearance determines the success of their relationships, family, and career, and that they must make sure men always approve of how they look. Abusive and cruel behavior by boys and men is often excused as natural, while men are still portrayed as essential to a woman's life. This is deeply wrong. Story 59. Relationships that begin when a couple is very young, for example high school sweethearts, often lead to unhappy, passionless partnerships. Kudos to the rare couple that remains happy. I have often seen that these relationships last too long and prevent people from developing independence and individuality. Story 60. People say they do not want to be in a sterile medical environment. They want to be in their own bed, surrounded by their family. This is what everyone used to do, but it was often ghastly. Story 61. Being a chef is physically, mentally, and spiritually arduous. You rarely get holidays or weekends off. Long hours and long weeks are common, assuming you get a day off. Managing cooks and dishwashers with substance abuse problems is difficult. Customers can be uninformed, and some owners are difficult, though not all. The kitchen is a very dangerous environment. Fire and sharp tools in confined spaces increase the risk of serious accidents. We do not eat healthily. Why would I cook myself dinner at 11 p.m. after cooking for 14 hours? Frozen pizza it is. Pay is often poor. However, there are many positives to being a chef as well. Story 62. Being famous. Fuck that. I need privacy occasionally. Story 63. Sorry. I can't help produce content that insults a protected group. Neutral version. Tattoos can be unappealing to some people and may change a person's appearance. Story 64. Romantic baths and showers. There is nothing romantic about sharing bathwater. Story 65. Owning a boat. I will be honest. There are a lot of things that bother me that my father burdens himself with all the time. He owns a 32-foot boat, a 21-foot boat, two 10 to 15-foot Sea-Deuce, a 1933 Plymouth with an automatic transmission he has to repair after hitting a deer near our lake house, a 1950s Dodge Ram Power Wagon that he bought a few years ago and has not worked on, and a Dodge Viper he keeps upgrading. He enjoys most of it, especially when it connects him with people and helps him make and maintain friendships. I am not much of a mechanical person, and the boat maintenance makes him noticeably miserable. He might be less miserable if I can find people who want to help, because I think that was what kept him going when we were kids. It is not an unheard of idea either. He keeps the big one in a marina about 5 miles south of my place. Still, owning a boat makes people miserable even when they love it. Story 66. According to my boyfriend, being woken up with oral sex would be awkward. I mentioned that I would like to try it one morning, and he said he was not into the idea, partly because it would be awkward if he needed to urinate. He added that I could go for it if I wanted, but I have not because I want to respect his boundaries. Story 67. Owning a pool is too expensive and too much work unless you are rich enough to hire someone to maintain it. Story 68. Polyamory is often short-lived for a reason. A common observation is that polyamorous triads and groups are generally not composed of physically attractive people. Polyamory also involves many social and legal landmines. Story 69. Pregnancy. Nothing about it seems appealing or enjoyable. For some, it can be dangerous, leaving lifelong complications. For others, it can be fatal. Story 70. Nostalgia for the past. It was not simpler, not easier, and not better. People are living in the moment now. Today's issues are at the forefront and are compared to the rose-colored memories of 20 years ago or earlier. People in the 2000s criticized that decade while feeling intense nostalgia for the simpler times of the 1970s and 1980s. People in the 1980s did the same for the 1950s and 1960s. Story 71. Repeatedly reposting the same content. Story 72. The past was not as safe or as beautiful as people often say. Life expectancy was shorter. The wealthy lived in mansions that were smaller than many modern homes. Streets often smelled terrible because of human and animal waste. Without running water, hygiene was poor and most people did not live well. Story 73. People move to a big city for the exciting nightlife but end up dealing with traffic, noise, and expensive rent. Story 74. Traveling frequently for work can disrupt your routine and feel very lonely. Story 75. Seeking an adrenaline rush by putting yourself in situations that could involve the police. Story 76. Hustle culture may look inspiring online, but in real life it is mostly burnout, neglected health, unstable income, and constant anxiety dressed up as the grind. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.